Got it.
Yeah, so now we are live streaming. Very cool.
Where does it live stream? YouTube?
Live streams to YouTube, and then I have it embedded on our website.
It's cool that you can do that now, because you needed a third-party app before, so that's great.
Yeah, I can teach you if you ever want to learn how to set it up.
Yeah.
It's like you have to know, like, not really hard, but you have to know how to finagle it. So, but anybody, if you ever want to share it now, that way we can have it accessible. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. Before we start, I want to thank you all for being here. My name is Greg. I use he, his, him, rather than their pronouns. I work in the Division of Student Affairs. I just want to share with you before we start some of the upcoming workshops we have for the Career Lab. Let me pull up the website. Here we go. Career Lab. So go ahead and check that out. We have still many workshops. We are early in the summer. We have coming up on July 8th, one workshop I'll be doing on LinkedIn tutorial and tips. We also have a workshop on managing stress during your job search on the 12th. We have one on writing a CV on the 19th, one about networking on the 20th. In August, we have anti-racist practices in the workplace on August 4th. On the 5th, we have webcam interviews, how to use virtual interviewing. On the 11th of August, salary negotiations. On the 12th, social media for career development. On the 16th of August, we have writing a resume. And then on 18th, we're wrapping up the Career Lab with taking charge of your career. So definitely check out some of those. You can find out more information. These are, as Taylor mentioned, open to anyone. So feel free to share it. Also, I want to add in, please go onto that website to RSVP to get some of the information. Also, we're very excited to share. We are now piloting several micro courses. And so if you're interested in career development for UMB students, staff, and faculty, we are now offering free micro courses. And you can sign up for those in the Learning Institute. The Learning Institute is currently live with several micro courses that are now enrolling in areas such as LGBT, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are about to start our public speaking micro course on July 5th, so definitely sign up, or it's July 4th. Definitely sign up right now. Career readiness, if you're interested in interviewing and resumes and cover letters, definitely sign up for that. The Career Readiness micro course starts in August. In September, we're starting one on leadership. And Taylor and I are very excited because in September, we are starting one on business basics, a partnership between Taylor and I. And so these are all free for UMB students, staff, and faculty. They are completely asynchronous and hosted through Blackboard. And so you follow a semi-structured schedule, and you can do it on your own time, in your own home, on your own computer. And so definitely check out some of those. Go ahead and enroll. We look forward to having you not only here for our live workshops, but in some of our micro courses for some of our asynchronous work.
Yeah, and also I'll add real quick, Greg, if, we continue to add career programming over the last, Greg and I started this Career Lab 3 summers ago. This is the third summer of us doing it. We have the most programs this summer than we've had any of the past 3 years. And it's interdisciplinary. So these should be programs that are applicable regardless of your industry, where you're coming from, where you are in your career. These are helpful skills, tips, and tricks that you can use at any level. But as you go through these programs, please email Greg and I if you have ideas for other programs. If there are things that you think that are missing from the calendar that you think would be helpful to people, please feel free to reach out to us, because as we continue to grow and add programs, we'd love your input.
Yeah. Thanks so much. And so with that being said, we want to give the floor to our wonderful friend, Jessica Moreno. I cannot say how long you've been doing this, because I think you've been doing this longer than I've been here. So probably 7-8 years.
I think only about a year before you joined UMB, I think. Most of my time has definitely been with you, Greg.
Well, I do appreciate it. And so Jessica Moreno from UMB HR, who really is a vast resource of information related to career development. And we are so blessed to have her here today to talk about interviewing. For those of you that are interested in interviewing, this workshop is focused on just best practices for interviewing. I encourage you, definitely go to our career development website and check out an RSVP for the next workshop on interviewing, which is the one that we have on virtual interviewing. And both of these workshops go hand in hand, where you learn about interviewing in this, but then in the virtual one, you learn about how to prep for a virtual interview and how to use some of the camera and the technology. But I'm so honored to have her here today, and I will give her the floor. Just for you all to know, we are being live streamed right now. And so it's just on our website. We're also going to be recording. So if you show your face, or it won't zoom in on you, but they probably will record your voice. And so with that being said, the floor is yours, Jess, and let me click record. One moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Click record.
All right, awesome. So again, thank you so much to Gregory and Taylor for having me. Like Gregory said, my name is Jessica Moreno. I am a staffing specialist with the UMB Human Resource Services office. I have her and she pronouns. I have gonna go ahead and jump right into a little bit of my background. I've been working in staffing and HR for just over 12 years now. I originally got my start working in a staffing agency in Massachusetts, where I was working kind of in an administrative role, reviewing resumes, organizing resumes, helping with I-9s, but got to sit in regularly with the recruiters and the account managers that were, making arrangements for individuals to get different work. When I moved to Maryland, I was able to join the UMB HR team initially as a support person to the staffing team, and then promoted a little over a year and a half later, about 18 months later, to the staffing specialist role. So I'm closing in on my 10 years with UMB. I'm very excited about that. I've loved all 10 years that I've been here. Some of the departments that I have worked with, or that I continue to work with, are the School of Social Work as a whole, the entire School of Social Work, the Department of Psychiatry, Department of Family Medicine, Department of Veterinary Resources, and then many others in the School of Medicine. So today, just as Greg had shared, we're just going to go over some very basics prep work that you can do to prepare for an interview, the different types of interviews you may come across, just some reminders to keep in mind the day of the interview as well as the days after the interview. So this interviewing prep work that I'm going to kind of talk about is actually a little bit, it's way before the interview. This is really interviewing prep work you should be doing, or prep work you should be doing when you're actually applying to the job. You should be doing a self-assessment. What are things that you like to do that you don't like to do? What are your strongest skills? What are the skills that, I don't like necessarily using the word weakness, but maybe areas of development, right? Things that you maybe are currently working on, or know you would like to work on, and you see this position as an opportunity to build those skills. The current skills that you have, how do they match to the job that you're applying to? And how interested are you in this particular role? I need to definitely do a little bit of an update to this presentation, because right now, as I'm sure many of you know from the news, this is really an interviewee's world, an employee's world. We are going through a great resignation, as many of you I'm sure know. Beyonce's newest song has definitely highlighted that. It is the Great Resignation Anthem, is the joke that's kind of going around HR. But again, you all are in a position, if you are applying to jobs, to be very picky about what you're doing. This is not the world that we were in 10 to 12 years ago, where people were being laid off left and right and struggling to find work. It's currently the employers that are struggling to find individuals. So if you do not think a fit exists, don't waste your time. Be picky, be selective. So if you've made that decision and you've decided this is a job I definitely am interested in and want to move forward with, print out a copy of the job posting. It's so imperative to do that as soon as you've submitted an application. Oftentimes individuals will apply And then if you're applying to multiple jobs, you might forget what the job is that you're being contacted about. But if you have a printed out copy, or if you save a PDF copy, in a file somewhere on your laptop, so you can refer back to it, it'll be extremely helpful when you're getting ready to go in for the interview, because you can review the posting that you've applied to. You can get familiar again with the company that you're going to be meeting with. And even with certain skills that you may have, you can kind of match up, what are skills that I have that are maybe a little bit more transferable skills that I've had in the past. An example of that is, I'll use myself as an example. The first job that I got in the staffing agency was an administrative role, as I shared. And so it required a lot of answering of phones and talking to customers and directing them. And I had never at that point had a job that required me to answer phones, but I had worked at Starbucks and I had worked in the drive-through, and I used that as my transferable skill. Wasn't answering phones. Sorry, excuse me. It wasn't answering phones, but it was still being that first point of contact with the customer, right? I was the first voice that they heard. I was the person that was going to start off their experience in a hopefully positive manner. And so that was something that I know later on was shared with me, helped me get the job. It was a smart response. It was thinking on my toes, and it was a great connection in terms of customer service. So again, those are things that you want to keep in mind. One of the other things that is really important in this process is, again, making sure that you've done a review of what the salary information may be. For example, on our campus, we are on a majority of our postings, I want to say a good like 75 to 80% of our postings, we're including language in there that says this job is paying, an example, paying in the low to mid 50,000s, for example, right? And so that's something you want to make sure that you're familiar with and prepared for in the event that any question is asked when you get into the interview. So as I stated, you are going to have that copy of your job posting. You're going to be reviewing the summary, reacquainting yourself with the company. And it's really important to do some research about the company. If you're interviewing back at UMB, what is the history? Do you know that the dental school is the first major dental school in the United States? Do you have an idea of what the structure is? We have a president that reports up to a chancellor, and down from him, he has VPs, he has deans. Do you know what our core values are, what our mission and vision are? These are things that you want to be prepared for. One of the common mistakes that happens at UMB is we get confused with either College Park or UMBC. So we've had people that come in and make a comment like, I'm excited to be a Terp. We're not that university. Or, they make the comment of like, that was really cool when you knocked off the #1 seed in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. That is not us either. That's UMBC. So again, it's very important to make sure that you know the organization that you're meeting with. We don't hold that against individuals, but it can be very confusing when there's many schools that start off with University of Maryland, so on and so forth. Several state schools have that problem, but still, the best way to make yourself, to highlight yourself and make yourself identifiable is by knowing exactly who you're meeting with. So another great way to prepare yourself is with mock interviews. Mock interviews are just great practice, right? You can get in front of an individual who maybe is super objective. The joke that I like to make is find that friend or family member that is just brutally blunt and do this with them. We all have an auntie like that, or a best friend who just tells us how it is without sparing our feelings. And that's really the best person to work with, because if you're maybe fidgeting with your hands too much, I'm really well known for that. I move my hands a little bit too much. I have to, kind of sit on them a little bit to kind of keep myself calm. If you, start babbling or running on, that person and that friend is going to catch you on that and let you know. If you don't have somebody that you can do that with, we're also we can be our hardest critics, right? Our own hardest critics. So set up your phone and record yourself talking. Check out your posture. Are you slouching? Are you sitting up a little bit too straight? Do you look rigid? What are your facial expressions? what does your voice sound like? Again, I think sometimes we are our own hardest critics. And I know that for myself personally, there's times where I've heard myself on a voice message or in a recording, and it drives me a little nuts when I hear my own voice. So I try to be more cognizant of how I'm responding to things. So if anybody at this point, I'm going to open it up to you all. Does anybody have any good or bad interviewing experiences that you would like to share? That can be job interviews. It could be interviewing to become a part of the university. If maybe you did a school interview, any kind of interview.
Hi, I'm sorry. This is Camille. I
Hi,
would like
Camille.
to share something. I just moved to Maryland in October from New Jersey. And back in New
Welcome.
Jersey, thank you. I was on my job for 20 years. At the time, I was on my job for 18 years, and I decided I wanted to change. So I started interviewing around. Now, 18 years on a job, things changed drastically. There's no more faxing your resume, right? And you're not looking for jobs in the newspaper, right? So I had my first interview. So this was in, I think, maybe 2020, maybe. And I had my first interview since 2001 when I had started that job, or 2018, I'm sorry. So I didn't prepare because I'm thinking like, I know this. And I got there and I totally froze. Because I was like, I'm good at talking publicly, speaking publicly. But in this interview, I completely froze. It was a panel. I wasn't used to that panel type interview. And after that, I kind of said, okay, Camille, sit at this job where you are for, a bit, regroup and get it right. And now it's better now.
No, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Camille. And clearly, are you a member of our staff here at UMB?
Yes, I work in SITS with Dr. Murray.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so clearly, like you got it together and you were able to
Right.
come in. You interviewed well enough to get the job with Dr. Murray. That's awesome.
Right,
So again,
right.
welcome to Maryland and congratulations on your role in SITS with us. But yes, that's a great example, Camille. Thank you so much. If you've been, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm a little bit anxious. I used to think I was a very good interviewer back when I was younger. Like I said, I've been in this job for 10 years, and I know I would need a lot of practice to prepare myself if I was moving on to interview for another job, because you're right, things do change so drastically, even over the course of 5 years, right? And
Right.
forget 20. I mean, things can change so much in the environment.
Right.
And so it's practice is such an important key. And I'm going to use this opportunity to make a plug for Elisa Medina, who works in my office. She's the career development manager. And so for our staff members, if you're ever ready to maybe move on to a different position on campus, or you just need somebody to kind of work with to prepare, have a look at your resume or maybe set up a mock interview for you, please reach out. Greg, if you don't mind putting her information in the chat for me, I'd greatly appreciate that. But Elisa is a very, very helpful source on our campus for anybody who's maybe looking for that next step in their career. Oh, I did not mean to do that. There we go.
Also, just a quick plug. So my office does offer free resume reviews, cover letter reviews, as well as mock interviews. And so you can sign up for that on the first link that I gave you. You can go there and click to set up like a career consulting appointment with me, or you could do it, of course, just like Jessica said, with Elisa Medina, who does it also. So just some options for you all.
Awesome. So yeah, so my next slide, I'm going to go ahead and I have this ready so we don't have to worry about watching any of the ads that tend to come up on YouTube. So I'm going to get this started. Y'all let me know if you have trouble hearing it. I think I set this up the right way, but this is just a little video about interviewing do and don'ts. It's a very helpful video just about, how we should dress, things to keep in mind when we're in person interviewing.
Most interviews, no matter what the industry, are designed to assess a few key areas: professionalism, interest in the job being offered, fit for the job, including applicable skills, and personality. Here are some tips on the do's and don'ts of interviewing. Do be sure to dress appropriately for your interview. If you're a man, wear a suit. You can never go wrong with navy blue, a charcoal gray, a white shirt, and a nice tie.
If you are a woman, do make sure you wear a suit to the interview. Either a skirt suit or a pantsuit is fine. Don't wear large jewelry, loud colors, or too much makeup. Don't give a limp handshake. Nice to meet you.
Do give a firm but not bone-crushing handshake. The key to a good handshake is to get the web between your thumb and forefinger fully in contact with that of the person with whom you're shaking hands. Also, don't forget to make eye contact and smile. So tell me about yourself.
Well, I was born in San Francisco and then my family moved to Boston. Well, actually the suburbs of Boston, about 20 minutes outside, but you tell everyone Boston. And then I went to UPenn in Pennsylvania, and I started out as an art history major, and then I switched to economics. But then I wasn't so sure, so I switched back to art history, and then I had to complete more credits to do the major. It was kind of a pain. So now I'm here with the possibility that I might apply to law school next fall.
This isn't a license to tell your life story. Rather, use this as an opportunity to give a concise summary of your career, abilities, and goals.
I'm a very energetic and organized person, which is why I'm drawn to opportunities such as this one. I have over 4 years experience at the associate level, and I'd like to further my career path. And I'm also fluent in French, and I've studied and lived in Paris.
Great. Interviewers want to know how you assess your good points and your bad points. What would you say is your greatest weakness or area that you can improve upon?
I have a tendency to oversleep. In the past, I've overslept and missed important meetings.
Okay. When discussing your weaknesses, avoid personality or character flaws. Instead, focus on areas that could be improved upon over time.
If someone isn't working hard enough, sometimes I end up picking up the slack. I'm working on just sticking to my own order of business.
So, are you married?
I'm single.
It's actually illegal for interviewers to ask you certain personal questions, such as your age or marital status, so you don't need to volunteer that information.
If you like, you can answer like this.
Let me ask you, are you planning to have a baby in the next few years?
I'd rather keep the focus on the job, not my personal life.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry to keep you waiting. Thanks for coming in today.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Do you have a copy of your resume?
Here you go.
Thank you.
You have a business card?
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
So tell me about your last job.
Well, it was really interesting because it had a lot of different elements to it. And I had a lot of responsibility in the position. For example, oh, excuse me. Oh, hey, how are you? Do you mind? Is that all right? Yeah, not too much. Okay. See you then. Bye. So as I was saying before.
If you forget and it goes off during the interview, apologize immediately and turn it off without checking who's calling or answering it. We hope these interview tips have been helpful. For more career advice, go to vault.com/videos.
Okay. We can get back to, all right, great. All right, so again, I really like that video. I think it touches upon several things that I think are really important, conversations I've even had with family members of my own. Number one, like they say in the video, you don't want to tell your whole life story when you're asked to talk about yourself. You want to really focus on your professional life story, right? What experiences have you had? How long have you been in an industry? Those sort of things. That's life story. The thing we like to tell people on our team, even hiring managers from our perspective, is you're going to have, if the person gets the job, or if you get the job, you're going to have plenty of time to get to know people and get to know them on a personal level if you want to give, share that information after you get the job. That interview should really be focused on your professional experience and the skills that you can bring to the role. The cell phone thing, what I share with people is I personally keep my cell phone off if I've gone into an interview. I just completely turn it off and focus on the area that I'm in. If let's say you're in a position where maybe you have there was no way to reschedule the interview, and these situations happen rarely, right? But still, if you get yourself into a situation where you were unable to reschedule the interview for a different time, and maybe you have some emergency situation that's going on in your personal life, my recommendation is just to share that up front with whoever you're meeting with and let them know, I have a personal matter that's going on. I hope you don't mind. I may need to step out. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. My family, friends know I'm here. So, but just in case something goes on, I just want you to know. And hiring managers tend to really appreciate that when you're just forthcoming with them about different issues that are going on. The improper dress, I think they hit some really good points about the way to dress in that video. One of the conversations that I've had with family members and friends, male family members and friends, are the suit. So, wearing a nice suit that is good form-fitting suit is always appropriate. I know the fashion right now is for some men to wear a more, something that's more form-fitting, right? Like maybe some skinny pants and a tighter fitting jacket. My recommendation with that kind of goes back to what we've talked about at the beginning of this, which is doing your research on the institution or the organization or company that you're interviewing with. If you, in higher ed, it's always my recommendation to just kind of go a little bit more old school, because higher ed tends to be a little bit more old school. But if you're maybe meeting with individuals that are running a startup, and you kind of see that the demographic tends to be a little bit on the younger side, you want to go with something that's a little bit more fashionable, you'd probably be okay. But again, that's where doing that research on the front end comes in very helpful. So these are just some common interviewing mistakes. You guys are seeing this slide again, right? Yes. Thumbs ups. Yeah. Okay. So just some common interviewing mistakes. Again, just making sure that you're appropriately dressed. You want to be prepared. Again, that's why we want to have a copy of that job posting saved in the beginning. You want to be careful with the salary discussions. It's not necessarily a bad thing to bring them up. You just want to make sure that that's handled carefully. And what I mean by that is if you maybe already know that you're making a certain rate that's close to what has been listed on the job posting, you just want to be careful about it. Do you know if there's some flexibility there? It's honestly something that you may want to even catch during like a phone screen or early on, just so that you do not go into the job, expecting to maybe be able to negotiate higher and there's no flexibility for that. So again, just something to be mindful and careful of. The other one, I think we all know, it's one of the things that's regularly told to us from the time that we're kids until we become, adults in the professional world, is not showing up to an interview late. If you are late, let's say you hit traffic or something, of course, you should just call whoever you're meeting with or try to send them an email if you don't have their phone number to let them know you're running into traffic and you're on your way. But you also don't want to be too early. What I recommend is, I know several people in our university maybe don't necessarily live just in Baltimore. Maybe they live closer to DC, or maybe they live closer to the Pennsylvania line. And so you're trying to make sure that you get to a location like our campus, for example, with plenty of time. So if you get here and let's say there's still a good 45 minutes to an hour left before your interview, my recommendation is to go and get some water and make sure you pull out that job posting, or, pull it back up on your phone and start just re-reviewing, and kill some time in your car. If you want to go and get a cup of coffee or a tea that helps kind of help you settle some nerves, do that as well. My personal opinion is the sweet spot for showing up is about 10 to 15 minutes early. Once you get past that 15-minute point, you're getting there a little too early. It's borderline rude. You may be just sitting there waiting. That's kind of awkward for a receptionist if they're in there. That can also lead to potential conversations that can lead into problematic moments as well. But again, that 10 to 15-minute mark is a nice sweet spot. You're early, but you're not too early. And again, if you do arrive at a location a little too early, use that as an opportunity to just kind of sit, try to calm yourself down, maybe, read through the posting one more time, think of things that you can compare your former skills or your skills in a former piece of employment to this job. And again, I know a lot of people struggle with the question of like, what are some of your strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? As I shared before, and as was shared in the video, try to think of not a weakness, but an area of development or improvement. Before I continue on to types of interviews, does anybody have any questions? Oh, okay, great. So these are the different types of interviews. So there's an informational interview. Informational interviews tend to be that very first, my experience is that first phone call that you have with somebody. They're doing a quick screen, they're getting a little information about you, they're sharing a little bit of information about the organization itself. That's usually the type of interview that you're going to want to, if you know that you have a certain salary range that you are looking for, that you may, or maybe it's already been listed on the posting and you know you don't have a lot of flexibility to go below a certain range if maybe you're going into a new environment and a new career. That's the good time to have that conversation in that initial informational phone screen, because at that point you're not wanting to waste their time, your time. Good recruiters and staffing specialists are going to also kind of note that if it's something that has been provided on an application, like if you've listed a minimum salary requirement. I know I do that if I reach out to somebody, hey, I know you listed X amount. This job is only going to be paying between X, Y and Z. Is this going to be a problem for you? Do you have some flexibility? And again, at that point, we don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste our time. We can move forward from there. One of the two most common types of interviews are your individual one-on-one, either meeting with somebody from HR or meeting with the hiring manager. Then group and panel is the second most regular kind of interviews that you'll see. Typically, we recommend at UMB that your panel interview, depending on the job, is only about 3 to 5 people. For some of our higher level positions, it may be a little bit more, but for certain jobs, we don't want to overwhelm our new hires or our candidates with having 10 people there for them to meet. And as it says in the slide here, those are typically for the second or third round interviews. Behavioral based interviews are widely used, and it's usually questions. I have a slide on those that I'll get to shortly. Test interviews are not seen as often anymore. We did used to do a test for UMB when I first started, and I want to say we've stopped using them for I want to say around 2015. But it's a basic skills test that for administrative roles that was used pretty widely, whether it was an office clerk or administrative assistant job, where we were testing an individual to see how fast they could type, that sort of thing. But again, those are not used as often anymore. Virtual interviews, as we all know, have gotten extremely popular since March of 2020. So those, I think, right now are being used most out of all of these different types. I know that there are several different areas, there's several different industries that are trying to get back with more in-person interviewing. But again, virtual is still really big right now. So these are just some things to kind of keep in mind, a little partner technique to keep in mind when you're meeting with somebody. You do want to remain poised. It's important to build a rapport with the person that you're meeting with. Important to kind of take a note of your surroundings. And you have, obviously, of course, your appearance. You want to make sure you're thorough and express yourself and reflect carefully. Rapport is very important because I think rapport to me is one of the most important pieces of this. And the reason I think that is that the reason I think that is that I think that if you build a decent rapport with somebody, even if you aren't a fit or for that particular job, they're going to hopefully remember you for another position down the road. For this position, when I joined UMB back in 2012, I initially applied for an administrative job with the School of Pharmacy. And like I said, at that time, we were still doing tests for administrative positions. And what we would do is you would go, you would take the skills test. If you passed it, if you passed the skills test, you would then meet with a staffing specialist. And then the staffing specialist would pass you on to the hiring manager whenever they were ready to meet with you. So I met with one of the staffing specialists and just had an immediately built a really good rapport with her. We were able to engage really well together. And as we ended our interview, she went ahead and told me, we have a job that's going to open up here in our office if you're interested, you should apply. So I took her business card and then checked the website every day for the next week until it popped up, and then applied to the job, and was able to get it, which was great. I did find out later after I got the job and, built better relationships with the team that I joined, that the staffing specialist that interviewed me, who, her and I are still really good friends. We still work in the same office together. After she met with me, walked straight over to the other staffing specialist that handled the HR jobs and was like, I found us a person, and gave my resume over to her. So again, even if you maybe are not a great fit for a specific role that you're interviewing for, if you have a good rapport with the person that you're meeting with, they may be able to be like, hey, this isn't a fit for my team, but this person might be perfect for you guys, and pass you on to another hiring manager. So again, just something to keep in mind. So interview questions. These are some common types of interview questions that you'll see. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Again, it's really important to, when answering a question like that, put focus on your professional environment and your professional experiences. Where do you want to see yourself? What kind of development would you like to get from now until 2027? What are your biggest weaknesses? What are your biggest strengths? We've discussed those a bit and talking about our development opportunities. What made you interested in the position? I know for myself, I had really gotten interested in doing staffing and recruitment. As silly as it is, was from being active in Greek life in college. I always really liked meeting new people and selling them on, the greatness of being in Greek life and being in student organizations. And that's how I ended up here. What was the reason for leaving your last position? You should be prepared for. I have a slide on this in terms of talking about hard questions. So we'll circle back to this, but this is a hard question that you should be prepared to answer. If it is hard, if, you were unfortunately let go or something of that nature occurred, you should just be prepared for that. And again, I know it's on one of the slides that I had previously, there's talks about not talking badly about your last position. That's again, something you want to keep in mind here. It's a common question. You should just be prepared to answer it and be mindful of how you answer it, because you don't want to say anything negatively about your last boss. Even if it was a negative experience, you do want to tread lightly with that question. So as I said, we were going to move on to behavior-based questions and have some slides on that. So some categories of questions, they focus on how you're motivated, what kind of ambitions you have. Your working relationships are often really big for your behavioral-based questions, because people want to know how you're going to engage with your team. They usually start out like this: describe a difficult project where you ... describe a decision that you made that blah, blah, blah. Tell me about a time when. So I know oftentimes we'll use, tell me about a time where you had a disagreement with a teammate and how you resolved it. What was the situation? How did you resolve it? For many of our customer service-based jobs, tell me about a time where you went above and beyond to help someone. So these are definitely types of questions too, where, maybe when you're doing your preparation a day or two before the interview, or even if you've gotten to the interview early and you have that time to prep, those are good things to think about. Or what are good customer service experiences I've provided? What are moments that maybe I didn't necessarily agree with the teammate and we had to come to a mutual understanding? Have I ever had any situations where I maybe didn't agree with my direct supervisor, and how did I handle that? Because again, those are things that your hiring manager and whoever else is on that panel that you're meeting with, they're going to want to get from you, just so that they can kind of try to come to an understanding of the personality that is going to be potentially joining their team. And again, this is something that can be practiced prior to the interview. So I really, really like this documenting setup, the STAR technique. So the first thing you're going to want to think of is the situation, right? So the situation, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Hot Dog on a Stick. I'm going to out myself and say that I used to work at Hot Dog on a Stick. Please feel free to Google it and get a good chuckle out of the uniform that we used to wear. It's great, or I used to wear. It's a ton of fun though. So I used to work at Hot Dog on a Stick. One of the times that I felt like I went above and beyond for customer service was I was the only Hispanic individual working for the location in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the task at the moment was to be assisting with making lemonade and assisting customers as they were coming in. This particular action, I had a customer who came up who could not speak English and only spoke Spanish. And the rest of my team did not speak any English. So I jumped in and started communicating with the individual. And the result was that we had a customer who was very grateful, very happy, and they were able to go. So again, this is one that I think Greg and Taylor share these slides with you all, right, Greg? This is one that I would strongly recommend saving this slide out of all the slides. This is the one that I would strongly recommend saving, just because, again, I really like this technique. I think it's a really great way to go into an interview and break things down and keep yourself prepared for those behavioral interview questions.
And for everybody that is here right now, we don't share the slides per se. However, we upload this video to our online library of recorded videos, which we already actually have. So if you go to our website, you can actually see a already done recording on this. So definitely go there and check that out, and check out other videos. Lots of resources. Come check out our website.
Yes, perfect. Thanks, Greg. All right. So as I said before, there's a point where you're going to want to practice difficult questions, right? So why did you leave your last position? If you were involuntarily separated, you need to make sure that you're honest about that. A lot of different industries are doing background checks. It is our recruitment policy that a background check is run on all regular, non-exempt, exempt, and contractual, the contingent category 2 employees on our campus. So if you are involuntarily separated, or if you're not being honest about the amount of time that you've been at a certain place, we're going to find out. You're also potentially putting yourself in a position where that can make you lose the job. So you do want to make sure that you're honest. If you were involuntarily separated, again, it's one of those things you want to be, and maybe it was a disagreement that you had with somebody, you want to just make sure you tread carefully. Even answering with, we didn't agree with how to handle a situation, and so I was let go, is fine. You may get a follow-up to get some elaboration on that. So again, you just want to tread carefully. If you had a long break in your employment, again, honesty is the best policy with all of these questions. If you're overqualified for a position, perhaps you're just looking for a change of pace in your career. Again, just be honest and let us know what the situation was. But these are some important questions to kind of keep in mind and go through. So first bullet point right off the top, keep your integrity, always tell the truth. Try to stay as focused and positive as possible. Practice. I feel like I've said that a good few times throughout here. When you're taking in a copy of your resume to the interview, I do strongly recommend to also make sure you have a list of professional references with you as well, all with current information. And there's a couple of things with that, right? Before I move forward. With your professional references, number one, you want to make sure that your professional reference knows that you're listing them as a professional reference, because we don't want somebody to be blindsided by a phone call. So it's important, if you're including somebody on that list, that you reach out to them and let them know that they're going to be on that reference, and that hopefully within the next few weeks, they get a phone call about you. You also want to make sure that when you're listing professional references, that you're listing at least one former supervisor. If you're in a position where maybe you have a really good relationship with your current supervisor and they know that you're looking for a growth opportunity and that you're applying, put them. That's even better. If you can put your current supervisor, that's the best thing you can do. I completely understand that many people don't really feel comfortable having that conversation. So then you need to have a former supervisor. There really needs to be at least one person who has managed you on that reference list. Two is if you can do two, that's even better, but at least one person needs to be on there. And then the other couple, if it's peers that have experience working with you, that's fine as well. But again, one supervisor has to be on that list. And again, make sure that you give them a heads up that they are going to be on that list and that you're applying the jobs. And then these are some questions that you all may want to be prepared to ask whoever it is that you're meeting with. So the one that I have kind of highlighted and read down here is really important for individuals who maybe are interviewing here on our campus or interviewing at a research institution or some place that you know is grant funded, is how is this position funded? Because if it is a contractual position, like a C2 position that you know does not have a specific, end date in line, and it's important to hear that from them. Because if it's a thing, if this is a 5-year grant, then at least 5 years that you've got in that role. Hopefully it is able to turn into a longer term position, but still that's always a good question to ask. The other common questions, of course, are what are the next steps in the process? How soon do you feel, soon do you expect to fill the position? I also always what are the primary challenges associated with the role? And then these are just some reminders for, the day of the interview. Again, we've talked a bunch about dressing appropriately, arriving early, but not too early. Remember that 10 to 15 minute window is the sweet spot. You want to walk in with confidence, but also make sure that you are using manners with whoever you speak to. The staffing agency I worked with, anytime there was somebody that was coming in to meet with our president, he would come to me immediately and ask me after, what did you think? If the person was rude, I would tell him right off the bat, he was kind of a jerk to me. I don't know how he did with you, but he was a little bit rude. And that was something that was always taken into consideration. So it does not matter who you engage with in that building. You make sure to be polite and use manners and be kind before you go in, because they may have a good relationship with whoever your hiring manager is. And they may be able to tell them, that person maybe was great with you, but they were terrible to the receptionist, and that is not a good look. Of course, you want to remember to thank your interviewer or interviewers, and then get the contact name and numbers and business cards if possible. Day after, you're going to want to follow up with a letter or email communication thanking everybody that you met with. If you are unable to get everybody's information, then it's totally appropriate to email whoever you've been in contact with. And just, dear Greg, can you please, thank you so much for meeting with me. I really enjoyed learning about UMB and learning about the team. Can you please also thank Taylor and Jessica for having me in the office today? Again, I really appreciated meeting with you all. Sweet and simple that way. And then Greg or the hiring manager, whoever is going to forward that on to the rest of the team. So that is all that I have for you all. Do you all have any questions about any of this?
As a tip that I have, in addition, thank the scheduler, the person that first reaches out to you. You never know who's sitting there at the table. And I think it's really important that you approach this viewing, when they're talking about does this person fit, it's do you fit in with everybody? Does everyone like you? And so with that, don't just focus on being polite and thanking the person that is sitting across the table from you, interviewing you. Thank everybody who is involved in your hiring process.
Yeah, that's a great point, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just, simple things, just reach out to them, that email or that letter. And feel free to ask them, do you have a preferred way for me to give you a thank you? Do you prefer a paper? I am in a post-COVID world. You don't need to send me a piece of paper. You can send me an email. That's lovely. But it's always easy to check that way. And especially if they're on a quick schedule, sometimes that email is much better. But if you do send an email, the great thing about writing a letter is that it's all handmade and that I can tell that you took the time. If you're going to send an email, do not send a templated email, because it is very easy for me to know. And that removes the thankfulness of a thank you when I know I've just been BCC'd with everybody else that you ran into during your interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, that is all that I have. I really appreciate you all joining us today. Camille, thank you again for sharing your story. If you don't mind, I may use that next time I can use a presentation. So I appreciate you sharing the story that you had. And again, welcome to UMB.
Thanks, and you're welcome.
All right. Thank you all again. Greg, I'll let you close out, sir.
Yes. So thank you again, Jessica Moreno from UMBHR, a continued resource, ally, supporter, and developer of UMB's professional and community. I would love for you all to definitely check out some of our future events. You can check in the chat. I've posted the links. We have many more workshops as a part of the career development or career lab. And so something that you may be really interested in is on August 5th, we have one on virtual interviewing. And so if you're interested in practicing virtual interviewing, how do you set up for a virtual interview, where I talk about I don't talk about as much as how do you answer the questions, but how do you make a virtual interview as good as or better than an in-person interview. And so definitely check out that one. Also, if you're interested in micro courses on career development, in August, we're going to have a micro course through the Learning Institute on career readiness. And Jessica here is going to help us lead in understanding how to interview. And for those of you that want to practice interviewing, you will be able to record and practice your interviewing through asynchronous mock interviews. And so definitely check out that. You can sign up for that. We will be walking you through how to write a cover letter, how to set up your resume, how to interview, how to get a job, and even negotiate salaries. My goal for that course is that you will find your dream job at the start, and you will craft an entire packet to then submit and apply. And so if you're interested in some of those things, definitely sign up, check that out. All this information you can get on our website, umaryland.edu/ILE. And I look forward to seeing you all in future events. And thank you again, Jessica, for being here.
Thank you, Greg.
I wish you all a lovely day, and we will see you at the next Career Lab.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
you.
Thanks again.
Have a good one.